Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MFFL Nation podcast. We are back. This is episode 1 for the Dallas Mavericks upcoming 2024-25 season. I'm here with a special guest today, Dallas Mavericks head reporter at the Smoking Cuban, Noah Weber. Noah, how's it going, man?
Mason, thanks for having me on, bro. I just got destroyed in some softball. Not fun, but this is gonna be fun. So you made my night, bro. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on as the first episode guest for the new Dallas Mavericks season. We are, when this video gets posted, 10 days away from Mavs Media Day. Noah, are you going to make it out to Media Day?
Yeah, I'll be out there, so it's gonna be a fun season.
Okay, and I know Mavs fans always check your content to see whether it's Media Day, game reports, news, hot takes, and stuff like that. So, guys, be sure to stay tuned in to his page regarding all of that information. Noah, let's get straight into the episode. Recently, the Dallas Mavericks City Edition jerseys were leaked onto X. Have you seen them yet?
Yes, I've seen them, and I think they're fire. I love them.
You think they're fire. We're going to pull it up here for the fans. Going to go here. Fans, here you go. I think, first of all, I think the design of it is really cool. I admit it looks a little funky when you're seeing it on a mobile desktop or something like that. But I think once we hit the court with these jerseys, whew, it's going to be really nice.
No, yeah, it's gonna be really nice. And what throws me off too is there's no numbers. That's what
Right.
it looks like a rec league jersey, but it's gonna look really good once there's numbers on there, like the Longhorn down there and the
Oh,
accents on
yeah.
the side, dude. They're gonna look sweet. Like especially if Mavs fans, if they could get them to wear the shirts, imagine a whiteout playoff game. That would be crazy. But Mavs fans don't like wearing those shirts during the playoffs,
They
so
don't.
no, they don't. But yeah, see
I
those.
love
I
it.
think that looks sick. I think those look
I
great.
think so too. I think so too. And knowing Luka, he's probably going to get blood every single time on his jersey, so he's going to have the only one that's not a white jersey. But I'm really excited about these jerseys. I know the City Edition court also got leaked today, or the in-season tournament court. My apologies, got leaked today too. Noah, what are your thoughts on this? I remember last year, our in-season tournament court situation didn't go too well. So, what do you think about this new court?
I think it's cool. I mean, I can't complain. The skyline on it, I think it looks sweet. I think it looks cool. Like in season tournament courts, like it takes getting used to because they're all
Right.
super colorful, out of the ordinary. Like it's gonna take some time for everyone to really like them, and you can't please everyone, as you'll see. Any jersey they put out, any court, there's always backlash. But I think that's cool. Like it's a skyline, it pays homage to the city. I'm sure they're gonna add a couple little accents to the court that make it unique to the Mavs. But I think it's cool. What do you think?
I think it's really interesting. I think there's a few things they could have fixed. I forget who brought it up on Twitter, but like something simple as like putting Reunion Tower in the full circle would have been pretty cool. I feel like.
Yeah,
Um,
that would have been cool.
just to fit into the circle, especially at the free throw line. I think it's cool design. But honestly, the Mavs logo in the middle with the trophy looks really cool. And I mean, like you said, it takes time getting used to these funky colors you're not used to seeing on a court. So I think it's gonna really look cool come play time. And yeah, I think hopefully we can actually see the court in action this year. Um,
Yeah,
that's goal number one. So I think this is really cool, and I think fans are going to enjoy watching players on this court.
for sure, man.
Perfect.
Yeah, last year I totally forgot that last year it had the defect, so they didn't even get to use it.
Yeah. Yep. It was a rough time for Mavs fans. But Noah, one of the biggest acquisitions this offseason was the Dallas Mavericks game Klay Thompson. Big deal. That's someone who I feel like the Dallas Mavericks, who I feel like everyone thinks can be that solidified third scorer every night. Something that you could say the Mavs were missing come late playoff time when they were going up against the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, and now that's changed. Um, a lot of people, though, lately have been saying Klay should maybe come off in a six-man role for the Dallas Mavericks off the bench. Do you believe that Klay Thompson should be a starter, or do you believe he should be in a six-man role? And also, do you think that Klay Thompson will close out every close Mavericks game?
I think that Klay Thompson should be the starting three for the Mavs. They didn't bring him in here to come off the bench. Klay's one of the greatest shooters ever. He's one of the greatest playoff shooters ever. He knew what he was getting himself into, and so did the Mavs. He's coming in here to start. That was a bit, I'm sure that was a part of the negotiations, because if you look at why he didn't, the Lakers offered him more money, but from what reports said, they didn't promise him that starting spot. So Klay's going to come in here. He's going to start right away, from what I understand. But when it comes to will he close every game, that's really gonna depend on if Dallas is gonna need some extra defense. I'm gonna say no. I don't think he'll close every single game, because when you have Luka and Kai at the 1 and the 2, a lot of times what has been the recipe for success with Luka is everyone talks about those dirty work wings, whether that's Reggie Bullock or Dorian Finney-Smith, Derrick Jones Jr., PJ Washington. It's like guys that can just sit down and guard on one end, and Luka and Kyle do the rest on offense. But I think Klay is going to be huge in the clutch, because he's a big-time shot maker. He knows how to get it done in the playoffs. He knows how to get it done in late games. So I think Klay is going to play a lot in clutch time, but I'm not going to say that he's going to close every single game, because you never know what's going to happen, or the in-game situations and stuff like that.
It is going to be very interesting, and I think you bring up a good point. The thing is that with the Dallas Mavericks, I think what Mavs fans forget is we're so used to having these small rotations. Now you have a very legit rotation where there's about 13 guys on our roster that could be competing for rotational minutes. And now it's like, okay, if Quentin Grimes is having a phenomenal night from three and Klay's not having his best game, do you consider putting Quentin in at the three? Is Najee Marshall sitting down and playing great defense? Do we need two great defenders? Because when come playoff time, you're going up against these teams that don't just have one dominant scorer, they have multiple. So it's like, are we going to need those PJ Najee lineups like we needed PJ Derrick Jones Jr.? And I think one thing that goes into account is that I would assume that the Mavs coaching staff will be emphasizing to Luka that he's going to have to be more interactive on the defensive end of the floor this upcoming season, with having Klay Thompson in the lineup, who isn't, I would say, a liability on defense, but he's definitely a few steps below Derrick Jones Jr. defensively in that starting lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely lost a step or two on that end. And as you said, the key for Luka, but the key for anyone on this Mavs defense is just to buy in. You just have to buy in, and you have to put effort in on that end to switch, to close out real quick, all all that stuff. Because in J-Kid's system, all of these guys, if Jason Kidd gets the most out of everyone if you buy in. And if you have someone who even an outs in them doesn't want to give their all on the defensive end, his defensive scheme doesn't work. So I think if Klay buys in, he's not going to do great, but I think he's going to be he's a competitor, bro. That's what he is. I think he'll be fine on that end. I think the defensive backlash he's getting, it's a little too soon for my saying.
Understandable. Noah, I think one of the most anticipated moments for the upcoming season is the Dereck Lively Year 2 leap. A lot of fans have been talking about, is he going to start shooting threes? Is he going to start being a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in the coming years? What do you think is what is your prediction for Dereck Lively's upcoming season? Does he take that next step?
He will absolutely take that next step. Do I think that includes him regularly shooting threes? I don't think so just yet. As he said, he wants to dominate the paint before he even takes it outside, because last season he wasn't posting up a whole lot. A lot of his scoring was just lobs from Luka, sometimes a putback dunk, something like that. And he showed really small flashes of this, and this is something that I want to see from him. That game against Oklahoma City at home, where Lively dunked on Chet, he was being aggressive in the short roll that game. A lot of times as the season went on, there were some flashes that he would be aggressive, put it on the ground once and go dunk. I want to see him be a little more aggressive as a scorer in the short roll. I think that can really help with his development on the offensive end, but his passing in the short roll is so elite for a big that, you can't knock him for passing out of it. A lot of times two would collapse on him and it would be a shooter in the corner. But I think Lively's going to do everything he did last year so much better, because at the beginning of the season last year, when he was switching, he was not that good on the perimeter. He would get blown by a bunch. He was still getting his footing in the NBA. But once the end of the season came around in the playoffs, he was automatic when he was switching. He would sit down and guard no matter who it was. And I think that he's going to be one of the best 10 center defenders in the NBA. He's an elite rim protector. Do I think he has a depoy in his future? I don't know, as long as Wemby's in the NBA, because Wemby's one of the most unbelievable defenders I've ever seen. And it's a shock he didn't get depoy last year, but that's a whole other conversation.
Right. Yeah. And my next lead up question is, how do you think Daniel Gafford's going to feel about heading back to the bench? Obviously, he's going to be a major piece in this rotation, potentially, probably, I would assume, the sixth man in some games. So do you think that's an uncomfortable situation for him? Do you think he handles that fine? What do you believe?
I think he's going to handle that just fine. I think that both of those guys, last season at least, no matter who was starting, they played similar minutes. I think that Lively is going to play more than Gafford most of the time, just because if you look at D-Live's game compared to Gafford, Lively clears Gafford in a lot of things that are important in the Mavs offense. Like if you compare Lively and Gafford in the short roll, it's a crazy difference, because Lively, he's so above his years when it comes to short roll passing and basketball IQ. Just his feel for the game is unbelievable. But as you said, Gafford's going to be one of the best backup bigs in the NBA. If Lively
I think, is there a better backup big in the NBA?
I'd have to go through the list, but maybe not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd have to go through the list. I think
Maybe,
OKC's center duo is unbelievable, though.
Yeah, but they're not a backup. They're not.
Yeah,
are they not going to start?
No, they probably will. But I'm just saying that center duo is
Do we consider Naz Reid a big?
Yeah, he's listed as one. But are we saying you're taking Gaff over Naz Reid?
No.
Okay, I was about to say.
Naz Reid's different.
Yeah, Naz Reid.
I love Gaff. I love Gaff. Gaff's really good, but Naz Reid, oh my goodness,
Yeah, he's a Maverick killer too. He likes to show out when he plays the Mavs. But yeah,
I think all Mavs fans will admit we thought Naz Reid was hitting that three in game 2.
Yeah. Yep.
That was scary.
Yeah, that was a crazy ending to that game.
And Luka Magic. That's what happens when you play Rudy Gobert, Mavs fans. But, next topic I wanted to discuss was, with us discussing the fact that Klay, there's going to be some games that, he's not finishing out and everything like that. Do we think there's also some games that Najee's starting over PJ later in the season?
I could see it, but it's so hard to say before they play any games. I think that Najee is going to be a huge piece. I've wrote a ton about Najee. There's actually a piece tomorrow or Friday at 6 a.m. that's going to drop. By the time this releases, it's probably going to be out. I wrote a piece on why Najee is really going to be the Mavericks stopper. That's what he's going to be. He's going to be elite defensively for the Mavs. There's 2 stats. He led the NBA, and I don't know the exact stat, but it's
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yep, he led the NBA in 2 statistics. I think it was I have it bookmarked actually. I'm pulling it up because so he led the league in,
let me see if I can pull it up real quick.
Best when he was guarding a shooter from beyond the paint. He held them to 29.3% from the field on shots beyond the paint, and on threes that Najee was defending, 29.2%. He's going to be a stopper, man. He's going to be a huge piece for the Mavs.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it potentially happening too. The thing is what I think is going to be an interesting aspect of the coaching staff this year is how they handle this rotation. Because there's so many question marks about, like you said, Najee being such a big piece. How do we handle that? Do we put him at the 3 more often than the 4, or is he the backup for PJ? and it also comes to the same fact, like what's going on with Maxi and Omax. You know, those are two guys that you consider potentially to get some minutes throughout the season. I'd really love to see Omax develop. I don't think it's going to happen this year. Um, but the depth is pretty crazy. I think there's gonna be nights Maxi doesn't even touch the court. So it's gonna be really interesting, I think. And also
No,
at the
yeah, for
same
sure.
point, what do you think's going on with the rotation of Spencer, Jaden, and Dante?
I think so. I've wrote about this as well. I think that Spencer, if there was those three, I think Spencer's going to play the most. Spencer didn't come here to ride the bench. He signed a
Right.
vet min. He could have, if he wanted to play, he could have gone anywhere. But he's going to play in Dallas. So I think Spencer is going to play the most out of that group. And then it's really hard. It's what do the Mavs want? Do they want to develop Jaden Hardy? Is he going to be able to take the steps necessary to be in a good piece in that Mavs offense? Can he make the right reads as a point guard, or is he going to be a pure scorer for the rest of his career? And the Mavs, they're really going to have to decide what they want to do when it comes to Jaden Hardy's development. And is he going to be more of the player that Mavs fans saw during the regular season that was around 50% from downtown, hitting clutch shots and being a spot starter, or is it going to be the Dante Exum from the playoffs that was nearly unplayable at times? And although he showed some spurts, he was just a small form of himself
Yeah.
compared to what he was in the regular season. So Exum and Hardy, it's going to be a big toss up, but both of them are in contract years. It's a big season for both of them, and it's hard to imagine a world where both of them play real minutes.
Yeah, you're right. I think I was talking to a buddy about this last week. I think if we see the same Jaden Hardy that we've seen the last year, 2 years, I wouldn't be shocked Jaden Hardy getting traded at the deadline. Um, I think that also depends on how Dinwiddie and Exum are playing, but you got to sell as high as you can if you're the Mavs organization with Jaden Hardy, if he's just going to continue to be this player, because realistically, I don't think he's doing it at an efficient enough rate to where it's worth playing him 15 to 20 minutes a game. You know, so I think that's something that the Mavs also look into.
Yeah, no, for sure. Consistency is going to be key with him. Like his rookie year, he ended the season lights out from downtown. But this past season, we definitely saw a dip when it came to his 3-point shooting. He has to, if he's going to play with Luka and Kai, he has to get back to being a knockdown 3-point shooter and being able to be trusted. I think that we saw that in the playoffs. Hardy was excellent in the Western Conference Finals. When his number was called, he'd typically come in and do things, and his growth as a playmaker was clear as day. But can he continue that? Can he continue to be a good lob passer? Can he continue to make the right reads that are necessary? Because we have enough score. Dallas has enough scoring. They have Luka and Kyrie. I think that Jaden Hardy, he can be a great scorer, whether that's in Dallas or elsewhere. I think that he has the gifts to be a great scorer. He can get to his spots in the mid range. He's a good 3-point shooter off the catch. He's not the best finisher, but I think that he can definitely improve in that area as he gets stronger. But if Dallas, if they see a progression with him as a passer, as a playmaker, and just with his basketball IQ and making reads, because you have to make reads extremely fast when you're coming downhill. If you want to kick it out, throw a lob up. I think that if we see another jump from Hardy there, then I could see him playing over Exum. But if he's just going to come in and be that scorer who's going to get his shots up, then it might be a similar approach to what we saw from the middle of the season last year, where he really wasn't a consistent part of the rotation. But he's so gifted. It's an interesting situation for sure.
It is. It's going to be very interesting to see. But I am very excited for this Mavs season. We do have one Mavs rumor to talk about that's been spreading through Mavs Twitter in the last 24 hours. A basketball trainer. I will be sharing the screen. Give me 1 second, guys. So, a basketball trainer posted, just finished playing with one of Luka's teammates. I never get tired of hearing this same story. Luka doesn't even work out. He won't take it serious, just throwing up shots at the backboard. his workout, is playing, he loves to hoop, but put up extra shots. Yeah, right. So Mavs fans love doing research on this kind of stuff to see who it was that said this. And the rumor as of right now is Glenn, a very well-known guy on Mavs Twitter, found that the trainer, after the first tweet was posted, had posted a picture with Spencer Dinwiddie in Dallas, Texas. So I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. At the same time, I think people don't get he's not saying Luka doesn't give a crap about this. I think he's more saying that the fact that Luka is this good, and I think it's the same thing with Jokic. These guys the way they work and function are different than American players when it comes to working out and stuff like that. These guys have been playing professional basketball since they were teenagers, and it's different for them. And I think guys like Luka and Jokic, they have such a special talent to where luckily they don't have to work out as much as some of these guys. But to say that he doesn't put the work in and he just messes around all the time sounded a little funky, and I think it could have been reworded to what he actually said. So.
Yeah, goodness. Yeah. So as we talked a little bit when we were prepping, I knew nothing about this. I think it's a little weird for the trainer to put Dinwiddie in that position. You're like, if you're his, I don't know if that's his main trainer. I know
And
I'm
now
really,
and now the trainer deleted it.
yeah, he probably saw that people were kind of catching on to what happened. I'm sure that's not exactly if it was Dinwiddie who said that. I'm not going to fuel the rumor because I don't know exactly what went on there. If the trainer was just trying to do this for clout, what it was. But I think that if Dinwiddie did say that, it's a little strange considering how great they were together in
Yeah,
2022. And as you said, he does. That's some Luka does mess around a lot in pregame warmups. Like he loves having fun. Like I mean, you'll see him. He'll be doing a header to Dwight Powell for a dunk, or he'll be kicking a lob pass behind his back. Like he I agree with him to the point that a lot of times like he could be taking it seriously, but he's a fun guy. Like he's
yeah,
loosen up before the game. I'm not reading too much into that. He's a top 2 basketball player in the world, so you can't be perfect. Luka's going to be Luka. That's everyone
I
knows that
agree.
by now.
I agree. Noah, for the last part of this episode, we had a Mavs Q&A from Mavs Twitter. Going to answer some questions from them and see what they had to ask. Ooh. Okay. Question number 1. How much do you think our offense will change with Klay coming in? So this is really interesting question. I've seen a lot of Mavs Twitter ask this. Um, you know, obviously things are going to change. It's going to be interesting to see if Jason Kidd brings in more pin downs and flares for guys like Klay. He was very comfortable with running those kind of plays with Draymond, so it's going to be weird to see who sets those screens, I guess. Is it PJ setting those screens? Is it Luka going to be setting some pin downs and flares now? So that's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, I think when that high caliber of a shooter and scorer comes into a new team, the system is typically going to change a little. I don't think they're going to focus it around him whatsoever, but I think they add in a few different sets and plays for Klay.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you add a unanimous top shooter to ever play the game, there's going to be some changes, but I don't think it's going to be drastic. Klay, I think his game is just going to be knock down open shots, be Klay Thompson. They want it to be easy on him. I think that they're going to find different ways to get him involved, whether that's just off ball screening and different actions to get him good
Right.
looks because Klay needs like other shooters, they need space. They need a couple seconds to get a shot off. Like look at D Jones. Like it took him a second to load up. He'd have to be wide open to really be able to get his feet set and knock it down. Klay, give him a split second, and he has enough time to get the shot off. So I think they're going to definitely, as you said, throw in different sets and actions for Klay to get some good looks. But a lot of the time, it's going to be a Luka or Kyrie drive or a Luka with lively pick and roll. Lively kicks it to the corner to Thompson for a three. I think that there's going to be some changes. They're going to have some set actions to get Klay some good looks, but I don't anticipate it being groundbreaking.
I agree. Next question. Who do you guys think will be the X factor for our team? No, you want to shoot this one first.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna say Klay Thompson here. That's probably the easy answer, but I truly think that it's going to be huge what he does. He's going to be the starting three out of the gate, and you're pairing Luka, one of the best shot creators ever, with Klay Thompson, one of the best shooters ever. Luka, Kyrie, and Klay Thompson is an elite big three, and I think that Klay's defense, if it can be good, if he can take a step up and be a little better than he was last year or over the last few years, it's going to be scary hours when it comes to the Mavs. Just but Klay is so elite as a shooter, like 39% in a down year, like that's unbelievable. Like he is going to be a huge difference maker right away. So I'm going Klay there.
Okay, I have a different answer. I don't see. He said excluding Luka and Kai. I exclude guys like Clay and Derek Lively as well, just because I feel like they're so high caliber. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it's PJ Washington, and the reason why I say PJ Washington is one, he is going to be, as of right now, at the lineup we are looking at, he is going to be our key defender in the starting lineup. That's a huge role to take on. Derek Jones Jr. did a phenomenal job. Now it's PJ Washington's job. So we'll see how he handles that. And secondly, he's going to have to be that guy that when teams are trapping our trio, he's going to be that guy hanging down corner shots. So it's really going to be interesting to see if he can sort of bring in that consistency that he sort of kind of had in the playoffs. I mean, the OKC
Mm-hmm.
series was ridiculous, but he was one of the worst corner 3-point shooters last year in the regular season. Improved it definitely in the playoffs, so it's going to be interesting to see how the season starts. I know he said in an interview with Kevin Gray that he's really been working on his shooting, his handle, and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see. Next question. This is a good one. Do we think Derek Lively's attempt? Do we think Derek Lively attempts more than 33 pointers this season, or will he continue to put all of his focus on post scoring? I say, I'd say we see Derek Lively shooting maximum 15 threes this year. Max. Like I would say maybe 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the under there. I think that as the person who asked this question, yeah, he and Derek has said this within the last few weeks that he wants to dominate the paint before he stretches it out
Nope.
outside. Continue to work on that little hook that we've seen him utilize at times. So yeah, I'm gonna say less there.
Yeah. And then concerns about our defense if Luka, Kyrie, and Claire are all on the court, sort of similar to what we were discussing earlier, but really guys are just going to have to lock in. I think also nowadays offense matters more than defense, in my opinion. And when you have that talent as a trio in Luka, Kai, and Clay, we're going to be outscoring teams pretty often. So you do have to take defense into account. I mean, first of all, I think Kyrie Irving's a very underrated defender. Um,
Agreed.
but Klay Thompson and Luka are just going to have to lock in mildly. And I really believe in PJ Washington and Derek Lively to really hold down the paint. PJ, I think, is a solid perimeter defender, and with Kyrie defending there as well, I think I think people are over worrying about this Mavs defense.
Agreed. I'm not too concerned about that right now. I mean, everything could change October 24th when we see this new team on the floor, but right now I'm not too concerned about that because the 4 and the 5 in that starting lineup are both excellent defenders. I think PJ Washington going from Charlotte to Dallas, his defense improved so much. And Derek Lively is turning into he's an amazing switcher. He's a great rim protector. Just his feel for the game on defense is excellent. I think that their defense is going to be just fine. It might not be as good as it was down the stretch where they were first in the NBA towards the end of the season, but I think they'll be an average defense at worst.
I agree. It's I think people, like I said, are over worrying it. I think the defense is going to be fine, especially if you look at the depth of our defense on our team. It's really good. What do you want to see be done with the 2025 first round pick? I really think that just depends on if we need something at the deadline, and if it's worth it at the end of the day. Um, if there's nothing good out there, keep the pick and let's develop a guy. Like I said, I could see Jaden leaving eventually or getting traded. So that could be someone that you develop next to Omax and Derek Lively.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. If there's a pressing need at the trade deadline, like last season, pressing need, they needed another big other than Lively badly because Lively he played like 55 games last year, and when he was out, Dallas typically lost at first. Like the first 5 games that Lively missed, Dallas lost all of them. Derek Lively was essential for the Mavericks to be winning games, and they realized, hey, we need a guy behind him because he's not going to play every single game. So they went out and got Gafford, and then they needed some more depth at the 4. So they went out and got PJ Grant. Obviously, wasn't working, and they needed to move on there. So they signed him to that deal the summer before. They realized it wasn't working, and they made a quick pivot. So they definitely made an upgrade there when it comes from going from Grant Williams to PJ. So if there's a pressing need at the deadline, like hey, our depth at the 4 is not okay. We need to go get a guy. They'll go do it. But I agree with you to the point that they've got to. I wouldn't be mad if they keep it and draft someone to develop. It would be a late first round pick, but that's not a bad idea when you consider.
This draft's going to be really good too.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at Dallas's timeline, I don't think I'm not saying I think this will happen, but Kyrie has a player option after this season. Dallas, I think it would be smart for them to go draft a guy just because you never know what could happen. I'm not suggesting that Kyrie is going to leave the Mavs after this season or anything like that, but I'm a big believer in drafting guys and developing them. And especially this season when Dallas only had a second round pick, and Nico Harrison in the draft, he's done a really good job. He's done an
Yeah.
excellent job. Like finding Jaden Hardy in the second round, 2 or 3 drafts ago, when he did that, that was a great move. Trading back and getting Derek Lively while getting off of Bertans' contract. I really believe in Dallas's scouting and their draft evaluation. So my extremely long answer. If they need someone at the deadline and that first round pick has to be a part of it, so be it. I'd prefer it be a young player who can contribute right now and that they can continue to build around. But if not, draft someone and develop them.
Yeah. No, I agree. Nico's phenomenal in the draft as well. You bring up a good point about Kyrie, though. It's going to be interesting. I think personally, after Kyrie's 3-year deal, I mean, we won't have to get into it right now, but I'd be shocked if
Yeah.
he left Dallas. He loves it here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a different feeling when it comes to Kyrie. He loves it here. He just helped recruit Klay Thompson here. Him and Luka's relationship has really grown. I think he really loves the organization and how they've embraced him in all aspects, on and off the floor. They let Kyrie
Yeah.
be Kyrie. I think that's been huge for his year and a half in Dallas. And I'm not expecting him to leave by any means. But if you look at the timeline, Luka and Kyrie's contracts. I expect Luka to sign the biggest extension ever, though I'm not suggesting that he's going to leave either. But you always have to consider crazy situations like that, and I'm a big believer in building through the draft.
Yep. Okay, so now we got what will it take for Jason Kidd to win Coach of the Year? Oof. I would say you gotta be the number 1 or 2 seed nowadays, man. So the Mavs are just gonna have to have an exceptional regular season for Jason Kidd to win Coach of the Year. When it comes to talent wise, I think he's proven that. I mean, he's made 2 Western Conference Finals in the last 3 years.
Mhm.
So really, if the Mavs can have a successful regular season and finish in the top 2 in the West, I'd say top 3 in the league. Then you can have the discussion of him being Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
Typically, that doesn't
absolutely.
really have to do with. Typically, it doesn't really have to do with the coaching talent. It feels like occasionally it's more just about the record, and I think you can sort of see the same thing in the MVP race.
Absolutely agree. And when it comes to the coach of the year, it can be a really skewed argument and conversation because we from the outside looking in, and for me, someone who's around the team and cover them and all that, it is so hard to evaluate a coach and how he's doing from the outside looking in because you can be a good coach and your team can be bad. That's a
Right.
reality. Look at the 2022-23 season for Dallas. It wasn't the best team. Jason Kidd couldn't get them over the line. He got a ton of scrutiny. He got a ton of scrutiny last season in the first half of the year. And then Dallas makes a couple moves and they fight and get the 5th seed in the West. I think it's extremely hard to evaluate coaches and how they do, because you can be an excellent team and the coach can be mediocre, and you can be a horrible team and your coach can be a good coach. So as you kind of touched on, it's kind of hard to evaluate from the outside looking in when it comes to coaches. But I agree with you. If Dallas is a top 3 or 4 team in the NBA, I think that Jason Kidd can be in conversations for Coach of the Year, just because in reality he has a lot of moving parts. You're adding Klay Thompson's not a superstar by any means, but you're adding another star caliber future Hall of Famer to this team. He has to manage all of those personalities. Najee Marshall, Dinwiddie, and Grimes, they're all going to play 3 minutes. He's going to have to adjust the rotation. He's going to have to make a decision at the 5 who he's going to start between Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. This isn't going to be some sort of cakewalk. He has a lot of tough decisions to make. And as we talked about earlier, the Dinwiddie, Exum, and Hardy carousel, that's a big decision in its own too, that he's going to have to make. Kidd has more decisions this season to make than people realize. But yeah, if Dallas is one of the top couple teams in the league, I think he should absolutely be in the conversation for it.
That's what it's going to take, man. That's what it's going to take. And then lastly, Hunter Hall. How can Luka Doncic become the MVP this season?
So what else did he have to do this past season to earn MVP? Like the goalpost.
Just finish better in the West. Just got to finish better in the West.
Yeah, he does have to finish better in the West. If Dallas had a better first half before the trades and won a couple more games, then we could be having a different conversation when it comes to that. But they really weren't that far off. Like when you look at the Western Conference standings for Dallas compared to teams like Minnesota and Oklahoma City. I mean, Dallas was 6 games back from Minnesota and 7 from the Thunder. 7 games is a ton, but when you look at the stretch that Luka went on to end the season, the numbers speak for themselves. He was unworldly. He had a 73-point game. He led the Mavericks all the way to the NBA Finals. The MVP is a regular season award, but when you just look at Luka and what he did last season, people who just started watching during the playoffs are going to tell you this isn't true, but he took huge strides as a defender. Luka took huge strides as a defender. He really improved as a defender last season, and his shooting off the catch was way better. I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough, is how much Luka improved as a shooter off the catch. It allowed him to mesh much better when he's sharing the floor with Kyrie. That Luka can be a threat as a off the catch shooter, because a lot of times he looked so much more. I think it's still the case that he looks more comfortable shooting a step back than off the catch. But Luka is a good shooter off the catch now, and I think that's a huge development in his game. But yeah, if the Mavericks are a top 3 team in the West and he puts up a near triple-double again, I think it's his award. I mean, he hasn't won one yet, and I think that last season it can be debated extremely hard that he should have won. I mean, he didn't even get second place. Luka was 3rd in MVP voting off of from last season, and we could do a whole episode about that. But yeah, I think if he puts up similar numbers to what he did last year and they have better team success, that's going to give him a much better shot. So Luka's going to be Luka. If he can stay healthy and the team success is a little better when looking at their standing in the West, they need to have home court. If he has home court and he puts up a similar season, then we'll be talking about Luka for MVP for sure.
That's why I said, even if he has his numbers drop a little more, I think he's still fine as long as the Mavs finish top 4 in the West, realistically. As long as you get home court in the first round, you're going to be in the talks for MVP. So I think as long as that happens, he has a good shot. I think this year's race is going to be between him and Shea. I think the Thunder, I'd be shocked if the Thunder aren't the 1 or 2 seed in the West. So, he's going to have that case, but really just Luka outplaying him throughout the regular season is going to be really important too. Noah, last question for you. Your prediction right now, what seed do the Mavs finish in the Western Conference for the regular season?
Okay. I think, as you touched on, I think Oklahoma City is going to be the 1. They were the number 1 seed last year and they got better, and that's undeniable. I have Oklahoma City there at 1. I'm going to go My gut feeling is Dallas finishes at 3 behind Oklahoma City and Minnesota. This is not me saying that I think that Dallas wiped the floor with Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of close games in that series, but it was a beatdown. They won in 5 games. Game 5 in Minnesota was an absolute blowout. But I think that Luka's going to miss some games. Kyrie's going to miss some games. Hopefully, Derek Lively can stay a little bit healthier. But I see Dallas finishing 2 or 3. I think their floor is 4. I don't see them I don't think there's any shot they finish 5. I think that they're an
Yeah.
easily top 2 or 3 team in the Western Conference. But my gut feeling is that they finish there at the 3 behind Oklahoma City and Minnesota. But I could easily see them beating out Minnesota for that number 2 spot. It's going to be close there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the bottom of the floor is 4. I could see maybe like in, the dream world a 1. I just think
Yeah.
OKC is too good in the regular season, which does not mean anything about playoffs. I think we saw that this year. But you know what? I'm gonna go with the 2 just because you said 3. I think there is a chance in case for that. I think Minnesota had a really weird offseason, losing Kyle Anderson, getting Rob Dillingham, those acquisitions like that. It's going to be interesting to see how they really do handle the Rudy Cat Nas situation, because Nasri deserves way more minutes. And Mike Conley's getting up there. I know he's been shooting lights out recently, but it's going to be interesting to see how Minnesota's season goes. That's why I think the Mavs can sneak into that 2 spot. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be fun to see. I'm gonna go Mavs at 2nd seed. You got the Mavs at the 3 seed. Noah, really appreciate you coming on here, man. It was a blast. I'm really excited for this Mavs season. I think all MFFLs are ready for media day. They're ready for preseason and October 24th against the San Antonio Spurs. So Noah, thank you for coming on, man. Please shout out your pages, your website, everything like that, so fans can get more content from you.
Yeah, Mason. So thanks so much for having me on. So if you'd like to follow my coverage, I cover the Mavericks. It's not going to be my 3rd full season, but I started covering the Mavs at the end of the 2022-23 season. So I'm a reporter. You can follow me there on Twitter at Noah Weber00, and there's 1B in Weber. And then where I post all of my articles, it's thesmokingcuban.com, and we post over 100 articles a month, typically 2 articles a day from me, even during the middle of September during the off season. So I'm always putting out content daily, 1 to 2 articles every single day. And I'm looking forward for y'all to follow along for this journey because Mavs fans, we're all in this together. So it's going to be a fun season, and I'm looking forward to the journey.
Awesome. Noah, thank you again for coming on here, man. It was a blast, and I'm sure we'll run this back in the near future. So thanks again, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.